Okay, welcome to the first episode of the Hidden Stone podcast. I am Psyche. I'm one of the co-founders of the Hidden Stone.
I'm Brennan, and I'm the other co-founder. And
What up? I'm Jared. I just joined. I'm working along with these two, so I guess I am also part of the Hidden Stone, which is weird to say, but yes, I am.
yeah, you're working with us two nut jobs. All right.
So today we're going to be, just for the first episode, we're going to be talking about the origins of the Hidden Stone. So why Brennan and I started, and then ultimately why Jared decided to help us out and join our community. And just to kind of help everyone get a sense of where this idea came from, and also some of our values and our ultimate mission with what we do in the Hidden Stone.
Great, thank you, Psyche. So I guess I could start out by just talking about the origin point and what the Hidden Stone basically started from. So this is kind of a weird parallel, but Psyche started this other group with a few other people before I even met her. But at that, literally 10 days before that, I joined the Toronto Intuitives group hosted by Boris. He's one of the hosts for Joyce Meng's, or guest host for Joyce Meng's YouTube channel. And through that, started joining a few of those, and then eventually, like on May 15th, I literally was like, you know what, I want to host an event. I want to do this too. I don't want to wait bi-weekly to just talk to people. I want to start hosting my own, collecting my friend group, collecting the tribe, to build something that would be the Hidden Stone later on. So that happened around May 15th. I ended up hosting my first data analysis. Only happened once. I only got like one or two people joining. They were very, very confused about the system, which, to be granted, a lot of people still are. But that happened, and I started hosting Saturday night think tanks around that point. They were weekly, and then some. Obviously, I wasn't so strict about it, so sometimes I would do them every other week, bi-weekly, whatever.
Brennan, sorry, just to clarify, you're referring to May of 2022, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah, May of 2022. So for next 3 months, I ended up collecting a few people. I'm just going to say collecting the tribe, collecting my little Pokemon characters. But by August, I had some people that joined from your group actually, and eventually ended up inviting me in, and we went from there. So around September 28th to be exact, we ended up starting Psyche's dream analysis. You want to talk about that for a little bit and how that went?
Yeah, sure. So so I, like Brennan said, I was in this other group with some friends, and I had, at the same time, I had been taking a doctorate level course in dream theory, and it was awesome. And one of the things that we did in the class was sometimes my colleagues would share their own dreams, or dreams that had kind of come up that, from their patients, from their therapy patients, that they, had permission to share. And we would all basically sit around in a group and, come together with our own different theoretical orientations and help that person in, kind of speculating into the meaning of different elements of the dream. And I just loved doing this, largely because, and we can certainly talk about this more later, but my theoretical orientation, being very Jungian, really relies on the imagery that the unconscious produces for psychological insight. And this would be the case in both dreams and in an active imagination. They're ultimately very similar processes. So I thought that this was incredibly cool because I was seeing how we were able to come to such diverse insights, because of how varied our different theoretical orientations were. So I got the idea of doing dream analysis groups in this other, online Discord group that I was in and Brennan had recently joined. And so I think so. You said, Brennan, the first one we did was in late September. Is that right?
Yeah, so September 28th, right?
Okay, so September 28th.
It actually was the Friday beforehand that you came up with the idea. I remember jumping on
Okay.
VC with you, and I was just jumping on VC. I haven't really met a whole lot of people in the in that server yet, but I met a few people and just started hanging out. I actually mistyped you a few times. That's how we kind of jumped out and became friends. I was like, okay, you're an INFJ. You're obviously my type. Like going from there. Um, so just like,
Mhm.
when you jumped in, I'm like, oh God, this evil lady's jumping in. She's gonna yell at me. And then she started talking about dream analysis, and we went and yeah, and it went on for a couple months. How did the experience go with just hosting the events?
Oh, so the first dream analysis events in the old server, I mean, it was different than in the Hidden Stone in some ways because it was just with like people who we were already friends with, but that very quickly started being very fulfilling. So we basically have been doing, some degree of dream analysis since then, and it seemed like week after week, obviously with varying degrees of success, but it really did seem like week after week, people were really getting something out of it. And it was really, really inspiring. And I felt very fulfilling for me because I felt like I was able to really start using some of the kind of like study that I had, I've done over many years and into, the symbolism of the unconscious, I guess, from a Jungian perspective, to really kind of more concretely help people in a setting that is not it's not, explicitly therapy, obviously, but it does certainly have, it can be very psychologically helpful, I think. And that's sort of what I was from the people in our group. And so, but obviously, and we'll talk more about this later once we get to the actual formation of the Hidden Stone in this kind of history. But it definitely is different in the sense that because it was just friends, it was like a very chill type of environment. So, we were just like in a VC, like a Discord voice call, hanging out. It certainly requires, and the Hidden Stone, it certainly requires more structure and more kind of considerations when it comes to managing a group of people who you don't necessarily all know. But yeah, it was always very fulfilling from the beginning, I would say.
And that went
So
on.
what I'm getting from this as I listen to both of you is that this is all just a major ploy to get friends. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
But I mean, me too. That's the reason why I joined, because you guys seem cool. And, that's what a community is for, to get people who are interested in the same things and have similar goals and values and orientations. It's cool. Yeah, it's cool hearing kind of the background of all this.
Yeah. Psyche, how would you say the friend group evolved with dream analysis?
Yeah, okay. So what basically I'll say really quickly to answer to what Jared said is like I definitely think that it is like at least somewhat true in the sense of particularly the way that this started, because I mean because I do tend to have like more niche interests, and I really, Brennan probably could analyze this from an MBTI perspective, but I really do like need to connect with people on the basis of like shared intellectual interests for friendships to form. So that was actually like kind of a part of that original group that we were in, is that was sort of the idea of, wanting to have a group of people who are interested in similar kinds of things in like psychology and philosophy and that sort of thing. And so it was nice because it really did feel like we were all, with starting dream analysis in that group, able to connect with each other in a really like meaningful way. But also with some kind of degree of like structure and regularity that like a weekly group would provide. Because at that point we were doing dream analysis every week. And I think it just like, it kind of gave us something in the group to like always have where we would be connecting with each other. And I mean, ultimately, like, you know, Brendan and I decided to leave the group, which I guess we'll get to in a little bit, but it was, I think that sort of thing, especially among friends, is actually like a very like bonding experience. So yeah, Brennan, I don't know how you felt about it.
As someone new to that group, and in a lot of ways, I sympathize with Jared by jumping into the dream analysis and a lot of other groups that we do within the Hidden Stone, because that one came in about a month after I joined the group. So yeah, we did do VCs. I came in like on August 16th, so about 2 days after I joined the old group, but that was pretty much it. It was you and a few other people. I didn't know anyone. I knew one person. I thought you were actually another person from my group. I'm like, oh, hey, I want to go say hi to one of my old friends. And it ended up being you. So I'm like, oh, I don't know anyone here. And then Dream Analysis brought a lot of people that I knew and new people. And that's how I connected with that group. In a lot of ways, I miss it. I miss having that. Obviously, now it's very fun to have dream analysis in our private group that we have now and our public group. But like back then, like when we left, which we'll get to, obviously, there was this kind of loneliness. There was this kind of void of we don't have that community anymore. And that really inspired the Hidden Stone. I think if you weren't to do dream analysis in the original group, it wouldn't have existed within the Hidden Stone. I don't think there would have been that fire for you to have done that later on, because like, I mean, we did you and I did like a one-on-one talk, and we were analyzing one of my dreams, and then I suggested doing the kind of expanding dream analysis later on in December. And this was right before we left our old group. But you want to talk about that, like doing that one-on-one and like me giving you the idea to do like a more of a public dream analysis?
Yeah. So I'm hoping that I'm like getting the history of this right. So yeah, there was this was, like you said, in December. And I think that was also leading up to when I was gonna do active imagination with you for the first time.
Yes.
And so I think that was 12/18, right? 2022. Yeah. So yeah, I basically, you know, because of the nature of dream analysis being very like emotionally vulnerable sometimes, typically what I do is like and this I don't do quite as much in the Hidden Stone. I will at some point. I just kind of need to set things up so that I have the you know, I need to make sure that I have everything set up that I can really sustain this. But particularly with friends, if you know, I analyze a friend's dream and it's kind of veering into territory where they don't necessarily want to talk about it with the entire group. But they, you know, they do want to explore it more. I'll usually offer just, you know, to, you know, let them just, you know, call with me or something, and we'll talk about the dream one-on-one. So I think that was, if I remember correctly, Brennan, I think that was pretty much like what happened in this case, that it was just like, you know, you had this dream that you wanted to explore, but you probably didn't want to do it in front of like everybody. And so I think we talked about that, and I think then after that, yeah, I think you suggested doing, yeah, like some kind of dream analysis publicly, and I don't actually remember how I responded. I'm sure you do. I don't know if at that point, I don't know if I was ready, or like what even happened with that conversation.
So essentially you were wanting, and this is actually the same time I was talking about doing a podcast.
Oh, right.
because this was leading, and when I suggested the podcast was a few days later too, because we were kind of gearing up to leave the old group, which we haven't for another month. But I'm like, hey, let's do a podcast. It's like, yeah. That's a really, really good idea, but my semester. So it was your
All right.
semester that was really catching you off guard, and you didn't really want to commit to anything because of your busy PhD program. But other than that, you liked the idea.
Mm-hmm. That sounds right. Yeah, because actually that would have been like literally a couple days after my first semester of my PhD had ended. And I had literally spent the last week, like, just because of like things going on in my personal life, I spent the last week basically writing like for 18 hours a day for like multiple days because I had some stuff going on where I wasn't able to get my work done in like kind of the typical I didn't have as much time to do my work as I normally would. So I had all of my final papers due at the end of the semester and I literally just come out of that. So I was at that point like open to the idea, but I was kind of like, like let's see how things are going when my spring semester starts, blah blah blah, like that sort of thing. And that was, I think, when we actually started really talking about the Hidden Stone.
Yeah, so I'll kind of explain the next month after this whole situation. So we're gearing up to leave the old group. We end up going through that for all of January. So we leave the old group in late January. We create our little friends, glorified group chat essentially at that point. And by February 23rd, so we were just doing and I guess I could talk about my data analysis. So we kind of did that within the old group too. We ended up doing data analysis weekly, depending on who would join, maybe sometimes bi-weekly. But by February 23rd, so that Thursday, we ended up revisiting the idea of doing like a podcast or a dream analysis group. We called it the Dream Analysis Project at this point, before we had the Hidden Stone name. So we ended up, by that point, getting the idea to meet Sunday on the 26th, and we end up getting you, myself, and a few other people that are still technically part of the Hidden Stone. I just don't know how much involvement they are having, if they want me to share their name or what alias they want me to give them. So I'll just refer to them as the others for right now. But yeah, we ended up doing that on the 26th. We ended up getting the idea for the actual name for the Hidden Stone on the 1st, and then we started expanding new ideas. I know you have some new ideas that were created back then, but we haven't executed on them yet. But yeah, by March 1st, and this is the same time I was laid off of my old job because I was doing a contract for bank at that point, as a tech support operator, and just having that free time to just go on the project. You're like, you know what? Let's actually build this into a business. Let's get the LLC. Let's get the lawyers involved. Let's actually go all in. And obviously, we've been slow walking it because of legal issues in your PhD program and so on and so forth. Just a lot of logistics that go into this type of stuff. But I want to know your experience and your point of view on kind of the initial side of the Hidden Stone and how that, like the emotions you were going through, kind of what you were thinking as we had the name set up. So like March onwards.
Yeah, so I really felt like the perfect storm of factors for it really seemed like the right time because like you said, for one, we had just left this group. We were both lacking a really vital sense of community, and like Jared was saying, like having a space where we with like-minded people could talk about things that we really really value, that also we might not find so easily in other places. So we had our like Brennan said, we had our kind of like friend, like a sort of like a server that we created that was just like for our friends, some of whom were in the old group and some of whom weren't, and I mean, that was great, but we started to feel like we wanted to expand what we were doing, specifically with dream analysis and data analysis. Also at that point, I was kind of, I guess I was maybe like halfway-ish through my spring semester of my first year of my PhD. And I was kind of relieved to find at that point, it seemed like my responsibilities were actually not as demanding as I anticipated. Granted, a little bit later on in the semester, it did start to pick up, hence, you know, things moving slightly slower than I would have liked. But at that point, it was actually quite manageable, which I was surprised by. So yeah, basically Brennan suggested this idea and I was really, really excited about it, because like emotionally, like I kind of, I guess, alluded to this earlier, but I have always wanted to be able to help people and also create community in this particular way. And I guess like maybe later in, I don't know, this episode or another episode, we can probably talk more about sort of our own personal histories, like going back before, you know, even the days of the old group, just in terms of like why we care so much about this stuff. But to say a little bit, I mean, you know, I've been basically wanting to find some way to you know, help a lot of people in some regard, even if it's just like helping to give them an insight or something, or a thought on a dream, or giving them community, etc. Using you know, Jungian psychology, which is very, very important to me. And so it really felt like finally I had the opportunity to do something that I had really wanted to do for probably since in some abstract way, probably since I was like 14 or 15, I want to say. And it was just pretty perfect. I want to talk a little bit about at some point, I don't know if we want to do this now, because this is, I think, the point where Jared started to get involved, or maybe a little bit later than that. So I want to loop him in as well. But at some point, I also want to talk about why I picked the name The Hidden Stone, or like why I came up with the name and why it kind of stuck. Because I think that it very much epitomizes what we do, hence, you know, why we chose the name. Because at that point, I think I got really excited about it because it was so clear that this really, really aligns with my values. So yeah, I don't know if that.
Yeah, definitely speak on it. And then we'll get Jared involved.
Okay. Yeah, so for the Hidden Stone, I'm sure that like people are curious about why we call it the Hidden Stone. So Brennan and I, we were kind of deliberating on the name for, I don't know, it was like a couple days or something. And, you know, me being a very indecisive person, I think that it was like kind of dragging out a little bit. And so one of the most essential, I would say, phrases that I've kind of like loved throughout my life is this. It's basically you can probably, I don't know if my picture is going to be visible, but those of you already in the Hidden Stone, this is, you know, on my profile picture in the Discord server. It's in Latin, so you'll see it in Latin on my picture, but the English version of it translates to visit the interior of the earth, and by rectifying, you will find the hidden stone, which is the true medicine. And that's, it's a phrase used in alchemy. And, you know, for people who are familiar with Jung, you'll know that Jung interpreted alchemy as being psychologically symbolic. So a symbol of the processes of psychological transformation, which often, you know, entails being able to go into the depths of the psyche and to the depths of the unconscious and finding insight within that you can apply to your own growth and healing and transformation and individuation. So that hidden stone when they say by rectifying, you'll find the hidden stone, is kind of like the inner core of truth within yourself that helps you to kind of initiate the next step of your transformation. And I thought that it was a perfect name because what we want to do is essentially help people find their own personal hidden stone. The individuation process it's a lifelong process, but over time you find truths within yourself through, some things like dream analysis or active imagination or other forms of, kind of depth-oriented, contemplative therapies. Obviously, we don't do therapy in the hidden stone, but, there are a lot of approaches, like Jared and I have talked a lot about IFS therapy, which I'm sure we'll kind of talk about a little bit in a little, but yeah, whatever way that you approach it, knowing that an essential part of the path to healing is going within yourself and finding insights that might have been repressed, or finding parts of yourself that might have been repressed, is very, very integral to why we do what we do. And so that is why we went with the name The Hidden Stone. And yeah, so I think after we I brought the name up and everyone was pretty on board with it, I think that I really got, so excited about it, because I was like, wow, we are actually like truly applying these principles that, my dad taught me this phrase when probably I was like 12 or something, and I've like lived by it, and now it really feels like, okay, I am at the stage of my life, this in combination with doing my PhD in clinical psychology, it feels like I'm at the stage of my life where I'm able to start applying some of my insights that I've gained from doing a lot of this stuff on my own for many years, and it just felt really, really fulfilling.
Great, thank you for that. So as we're doing the public dream analysis and the data analysis, aka synchronicity memory analysis, what I call it now, just on the public end, you end up helping me with one more active imagination, and it seems like after that, this is where we kind of enter into like I would like to call it the next arc of it, the next kind of era, where Jared and a whole lot of other people that are actually regulars now within the group start joining. So Jared joins one of them. I think he joined the Saturday Night Think Tank on the original Toronto Intuitives group, which by the way is still around. Like that group is somehow never dead. But
some random group in Canada where a bunch of intuitives get together, right?
Yeah, no kidding. And somehow I'm down in the South hosting a group up in Canada because you have a bunch of ENTPs that just left. But yeah, I'm just a scavenger for dead groups at this point. But yeah, so you joined. I end up typing you as an ENFJ Sleep Last, which I think everyone in the objective personality group has pretty much deliberated and basically unanimously voted that you're a Sleep Last type. I mean, whatever you are, most likely EJ. But yeah, so when you start joining, you joined Nathan's group, and he hosts actual public groups in the other, like many different groups. He's actually a public figure, more or less. So when you join his, and then we end up meeting, and then I start bringing you into the Hidden Stone server. How did that go? Like, it kind of explain your side of the story with all of that.
Yeah, so it was interesting. So the past year I've been hating my life and wanting to end it, but I jokingly talk about it. It's I can jokingly talk about it because I don't think it ever got to the point where it was like incredibly dangerous, but it sucked a lot. And so I did a lot of self-reflection and with my therapist and everything. And I think one of the key things that I noticed that I needed, especially as you were saying, like, for anyone familiar with the OPS system, Sleep Last, like I have a hard time and like understanding myself, what I want, and like just like doing things for myself because I'm constantly trying to do things for other people. I'm a father. I'm an employee. And I'm a husband. And so I have a ton of responsibilities on my life. And so it just kind of hit me all of a sudden. It's like, I don't have a lot of friends or like people that I like a vibe with and stuff, because a lot of people that I do talk with are people that I know in person. I'm a very sociable person and I like to help people and be part of my like physical community. But I realize that like in my physical community, there just ain't a bunch of people who are into freaking Jungian psychology and like deep psychoanalytic junk. And so I'm like, I need to I need to be intentional about this and find people like that. So when I went on Meetup, I felt inspired by the divine to go. I'm a typical. I wouldn't even say I'm a typical Christian. I'm sorry. I'm getting sidetracked here. I
Good,
I
Jared.
gosh, I just felt that I needed to go intentionally find people who I could actually like enjoy talking with and stuff. And then I joined. I totally forget that it was like Nathan's thing or whatever. I think it was some sort of like speed friending or whatever. And then yeah, I met Brennan. I was like, yeah, he and I vibe. And then he was talking about you were talking about a Discord server. I was like, okay, sure, why not? I'll talk to you over there. And then we just start chatting more and more. And like Brendan's one of the guys that I actually talk to, and I like look forward to talking to in my life. So that's good. I actually have a friend now to like chat about these things. But then Brennan introduced me to the rest of the people in the Hidden Stone, and I actually got to talk with Psyche in one of the things that you were doing with like active imagination. Which is no, I think it was a dream analysis that
It was a
I
dream
joined.
analysis. It was a dream
Yeah,
analysis in the private server that we have.
Yeah, because I
yeah.
disagree. Sorry, go ahead.
I just somehow got roped in right past the public server into your private friend group. I was like, okay, sure, why not? Expedited. And so yeah, we were all chatting. I was like, there's a very interesting vibe within these people. So I don't know. We just started talking more, and then the fact that I have a really good job. I really enjoy my job. I work in corporate as like a researcher or a software engineer. I have a lot of experience with technical stuff. So I do augmented and virtual reality work, and I'm transitioning right now to AI. And I just have a lot of business acumen. Not as much as other people. Definitely, I'm no MBA or whatever, but I'm a little bit older than these guys and have a little bit more experience in this kind of world. But I know that Brennan and Psyche also have their own experience. But I was thinking, you know what? This seems interesting. I was feeling bad about my life, and then meeting people who were like me made me feel good about my life. And so anything I can do to bring in my levels of experience in the professional world to make this more of a scalable solution so that people can come in and find people like themselves, so maybe they don't hate their lives as much as I did, seems like a good thing. And so that is what motivated me to kind of like join your guys' efforts. I was going to say little efforts, but I realized the end goal is to make this a big effort. So since I'm
Yeah.
someone that likes to think about scale and practicality and how to market and all these things, like seems like fun, seems like a good way to practice. And again, you guys are cool, so try and magnify this little voice that you guys have to make it a big voice.
We're really thankful for you, Jared. And like I kind of want to talk about this a little bit because I think that there was profound synchronicity in you joining at the time that you did, because Brennan and I I don't know, there's people are currently fighting over what Brennan's type is, but Brennan and I are very, similar in that I presumably both, very NI Dom, like kind of sleep blast, like savior types. I mean, me being blast first and Brennan being sleep first. As of right now, I don't know, like we'll see what he figures out about his type, but yeah, like we have our own strengths, but I feel like we really benefit tremendously from you, Jared, because you do think about scale and you're thinking extremely practically. Like I know for myself, I think very theoretically. I do think practically, but I think what it is I think practically, but I don't like doing practical implementation. So I
I
feel
have
like
a
there's some
suspicion that I
good
may have a suspicion may have NE. So we have to talk about that. But if
any
that's true, then hey, that is the counterbalance
Oh God,
to
you're an
what you got.
ESTJ. The ESTJs need to
I
leave.
know that's why if I'm a freaking ESTJ, I'm gonna have to rewrite all my stereotypes about ESTJs.
Yeah, but one quick thing I think like I just want to talk a little bit about it, hear how Jared felt about this too, is that I I remember he and I had this amazing conversation. I think I don't know if this was like in what like April or something, maybe early May. I don't know when this was. It was like sometime around then. And I think what it was is that we were originally meeting to talk about active imagination, and then we both got into talking about our how we had actually both had like like a relatively long history of doing something at least akin to active imagination, even if it was, in Jared's case, not intentional. And so we realized like I was over here thinking like, well, how crazy is it that, okay, first of all, I met Brennan being as rare and incredible as he is with his own skills and insights. And now Jared, we have Jared in the group, and not only do you have your business experience, but you also have done some of that inner work and you understand the value of it. And I was just like completely blown away. We spent some time talking about very long-term goals for the Hidden Stone. This is something that we'll touch on probably in another episode, but one of which would include how the three of us want to work together to kind of build some of an evidence base for these Jungian methods, like primarily active imagination, which I'll be doing with my doctoral dissertation. So we got into some cool conversations, and I was like, after that, I was like, Brennan, we need Jared. Because yeah, I just was like so excited after that conversation.
Yeah, and I'll kind of talk about Jared joining our private group at that point, because you use several different Discord names. Like you have your public one for Psyche, and you use your private one, whatever it is. I don't remember for the sake of this video, but it was kind of funny. You were like, do not add anyone to to our private group from the Hidden Stone at all. Like, don't do that. And I'm like, no what, Jared, you seem like a good guy. I'm gonna add you. I remember like 3 minutes later, like
Circumvented and expedited. That's me.
He got expedited.
like, what the hell did you just do? I'm like, nothing. While Jared and I are just literally on Zoom talking after one of my Saturday nights, Sunday nights of night events, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna answer this. And then that next Wednesday, we did a dream analysis, just the friends side, and Jared joins a little late because we do them because time zone difference, his responsibilities, our responsibilities, whatever. So we do them.
Yeah, I have children.
Yeah, you have a life. You're not a loser like we are. But you end up joining as we were shutting down for the night, and you and Psyche have like that really long conversation how you guys meet originally, because you might have met in one of the Hidden Sun events, but you obviously weren't.
No, first time I met him was in that dream analysis. Yeah, in our private group. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that was super cool. I was like, wait, this guy's like really, really, really cool.
I remember messaging after the fact. I'm like, I told you so. So.
Yeah. You were right. Because really, really, like the only reason why at first I was like, yeah, like Brennan, like we can't be adding people from the Hidden Stone, because I was worried about like mainly anonymity related stuff. But then like it was so clear, like after talking to Jared, like, okay, yeah, this guy is like one of us. Like we're solid here.
Wacko is what you mean.
Yes. Slightly unhinged.
A little bit schizophrenic at times, but
no.
Oh, just a little. Just kidding.
Yeah, I'm kidding. That in the old group, that's kind of what we were called the entire time through. Was just we were joking.
And I schizo. That was like the kind of
because we
Man,
had
if I had any schizo, that's crazy.
Yeah, we had like an NI Dom group chat at one point where it was just the entire time, like every single day for like 3 or 4 hours, it would just basically be NI Dom schizophrenic jokes. So, um, but yeah, we pretty much covered the timeline. Is there any other topics you guys would like to bring up?
Well, I guess like maybe we could talk about, I don't know if this is something we want to talk about here today, but just like broadly speaking, like what we envision for the Hidden Stone, not talking necessarily about specific types of events or projects or that sort of thing, because obviously we're deciding on what we want to do, but just like, you know, how we, I guess like our ultimate vision for, you know, how we impact others or something like that. Be curious to hear from both of you, especially also Brennan. I think like it would be helpful if you talked a little bit more about your data analysis, because I think like, you know, that's something that we didn't cover enough, and your own history with that is very interesting and very relevant to this conversation.
Yeah, so I was kind of holding the data analysis stuff off for the next video when we talk about kind of our individual origin stories.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But I can kind of bring it up in kind of broad terms. So I'm not diagnosed, but I have been a part of a research study because I am believed to have a memory condition called hyperphagia. If any of y'all know the show Taxi from the 1980s, Mary Lou Henner was starring in it. She has the same memory condition as me. She's been diagnosed. She was one of the first to get diagnosed, I believe, in 2005 or 2007. But essentially, HSIM is where we remember every single day of our lives. And from a certain age, for me, it's age 14, almost coming up on 6 years. So Monday, the 25th of September will be basically from that point on, I can be given a date and I can say what I did on that day. If you guys want to throw one out at me, just spontaneously, Jared, you go. Come, last 6 years. Do something in
January
2018.
6th of January 7th of 2017.
Well, I said Sep 25, but actually that is a good point because that goes into my origin point. So I actually hosted a YouTube channel starting on January 8th and 2017 called Tech Dog, and I would literally be in and that actually inspired this video. Because if I didn't do Tech Dog on January 8th, this video wouldn't be happening. But the 7th was pretty much just planning it out how I want to do it. It was a Saturday. And yeah, yay to those months that start with Sunday, because Friday the 13th is one of my favorite dates. But yeah, yeah.
So a date from September 25th, 2017 onward would be
Yeah.
one that you would remember all the details of.
Correct. But going from there, I started noticing like a 700-day calendar, or not. Well, I have to say later on, I started really collecting on dates, and then actually on December 14th, 2017, which I know is important to other people in the group, is when I started realizing that there are these weird synchronicities, psychological or otherwise, that will reoccur. So as long as I don't realize it and not conscious of it, the pattern will happen. But like October 5th, 2017 and November 15th, and like there's these like 41-day patterns. One of the reasons we have the 41 as in some logo. But over time, like 2018, 2019, I started noticing that my behavior and my actions have a pattern to them, and they happen every 700 days. One of the reasons is because of day-date combinations. So if you look at like July 9th, 2017 versus June 9th, 2019, they're both day zeros. And they're both on Sunday. And then you can actually do that another couple times, actually all the way up until 2025 for March 10th, I mean March 9th. But like May 9th, 2021 and April 9th, 2023, aka the last day zero. For anyone curious, today would basically be October 24th, 2017. That would be 300 weeks ago today. But through that, I started repeating those patterns like, oh, well, on day 428, September 10th, 2018, I did something very, very similar on August 10th, 2020. So just constantly repeating those patterns. And then by day 177, I started writing down like, oh my God, all these days are 700 days apart. All these these repeating events have an interval of 700 days. And over time, I started coming up with a system to teach others. And I think on December 23rd, after that data analysis, or after the active imagination session you helped me with, I started bringing this up, and you had some patterns yourself. If you want to talk about them, if not, that's totally fine. But we started realizing that there are synchronicities in other people's lives that are psychological, that do repeat over and over and over again. And until you realize that they're going to continue to happen. But
Yeah.
I evolved January 12th. You allowed me to do data analysis in the private group for that exact reason. I'm like, no one joined, obviously. It was just you and I. It would literally just be a synchronicity talk for you and I because we're the only two interested in it. But just learning how to teach it, learning how to allow people to understand their own patterns was very beneficial. And even in the small groups I have today, it seems to be helping a lot of people. So yeah, that's kind of my origin story, but with my memory. But anyway, Psyche, you have any other comments?
I think that maybe for another episode, I could talk more about my thoughts on that because I want to also be just respectful of the time. Because I think we're at about an hour. I can talk longer. I just wanted to check for Jared in particular if we wanted to go longer.
I had to push back a meeting, so I have to get out here in a at very least less than 15 minutes.
Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and wrap up then.
All right.
I did have one question though.
Go ahead.
As I heard you guys talking about dates and ages and stuff. I know you guys are kind of young. If you're willing to share, when were you guys born? Like what year?
I was born in 2000, September 2000.
Gosh, dang it. I feel like an old man. I was born 94. Jeez. That's so funny to me. I don't know why. We're not even that much apart, but it's just, oh man.
Well, Brennan's younger than I am.
Yeah. December 2000.
Brendan, are you go on?
December 2002.
02, almost 03, man. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, we're babies.
I'm high school class of 2012. I was back there with MySpace and everything.
Oh man, yeah, I graduated in 2018.
Oh, my heart. Jeez. Oh man, that's so funny.
2021, baby.
2021. That just, yeah, that seems young even for me.
Oh man, well, we have a wide variety of generations here, don't we? We have the millennials and the Gen Zers.
Yeah, Gen Z supremacy. But that is another topic we can talk about on the next episode with different generations and introspection and stuff like that. But yeah, I think we can wrap up. Any last comments?
I think I'm good. I mean, yeah, I guess we can make some, and then we can go ahead and get off. I mean, I'll just say that I appreciate anyone who's listening, and thank you for your interest in the Hidden Stone. This project clearly means a lot to us, and I think for an upcoming episode, we'll talk more about our own personal histories. I know we've kind of all touched a little bit upon that, but I think that understanding why we care so much about this is important, and kind of the insights that we try to bring to the group, and that I think will be something that we cover in the future. But for now, I appreciate anyone who wants to know about the history of the Hidden Stone. We're really excited for where the project is going. We're excited to ultimately start expanding out the events that we run beyond what Brennan and I can basically do. And we're, you know, hoping to start. One thing we're doing right now is we're going to be recruiting event hosts soon. So I'm sure that there will be opportunities if people are interested in hosting events in the Hidden Stone for us to talk. But yeah, we're just really excited about what's to come. So that's all for me.
Right. Sounds great. So I guess we'll wrap up. Thank you for listening and hope to catch you guys later.